You know what? This sounds like a clickbait title. I mean, why would fools shape the world more than geniuses do? I believe that's actually true. When I talk about fools, I don't mean them in a derogatory way. I'm talking about average people like you and me. When we think of the great movers and shakers of history, we think of geniuses. We think of people like Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, Marie Curie, Leonardo da Vinci. People who had a profound impact on humanity. This is why fools shape the world more than geniuses do. It's not because they're smarter or more talented, but because they're more relatable. Think of Jeff Bezos, who started Amazon. He's not a genius. He is an ordinary guy who had a good idea and then surrounded himself with smart people who could help him execute that idea. Or Elon Musk. Now, sure, he's probably a genius, but he surrounds himself with other smart people. If he wasn't able to do that, if he couldn't hire smart people to work alongside other smart people, then none of his companies would be as successful as they are today. It is easier for them to get other people who are just like them to come together and accomplish something big. I mean, you need to have some level of intelligence or ability in order to accomplish anything. But what I am saying is that being relatable is probably even more important. You can be the smartest person in the world, but if nobody wants to work with you because you're a jerk, then you're never gonna accomplish anything. But if you are just an average person who can relate to other people and can inspire them to do something, then you can accomplish incredible things. And yeah, sure, all those people were super smart and talented, but most of the time, they were also kind of weird. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Which made it hard for them to relate to other people, and therefore hard for them to get other people to join them in their endeavors. Average people who aren't necessarily smarter or more talented than others, but just by being numerous are able to have an impact on the world, simply because there is so many of them. Take a look at Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. Yeah, sure, both of them were pretty smart, but neither of them were like Albert Einstein smart. In fact, Tesla was much more brilliant than either of them. The reason I think this is because Jobs and Gates were able to surround themselves with other normal people who weren't necessarily geniuses, but people who were smart enough to learn how to build computers or smartphones and who could work alongside other normal people to make these products. Yet both of them changed the world. Jobs with his beautiful human-centric designs and Gates with his software that put an entire library at the fingertips of anybody who could use a search engine. The reason I think this is true is because look at history. Now, take a look at the people whose names aren't as connected to their accomplishments. People who aren't necessarily seen as geniuses, but were actually far more influential than the geniuses. The reason I think Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were able to change the world more than someone like Nikola Tesla was not because they were smarter or more talented. This is why companies like Apple and Microsoft were able to grow into these gigantic corporations that literally put a computer or a smartphone into the hands of billions of people around the world. I mean, when you think about it, almost every single major company in the world was started by an ordinary person, a fool. Now, I'm not saying that being smart or talented is not important. Of course it is. So yeah, I think this is true. I think that fools shape the world more than geniuses do. What do you think? Am I wrong? Rational society. That is the illusion. We like to think of ourselves as rational beings, but we are not. We are all prisoners of our perceptions, our beliefs, our biases, and most importantly, our emotions, our decisions, whether we're voting for a political candidate or choosing a life partner, are rarely purely rational. Emotions play a huge role in shaping our choices. This idea is explored in an amazing book called The Dangerous Illusion by an Italian author named Carlo Cipolla. We are all prisoners of our perceptions, our beliefs, our biases, and most importantly, our emotions. Emotions play a huge role in shaping our choices. Emotions drive our opinions, Our preferences and our decisions, they make us who we are. Of course, emotions are not always rational, but they are real and they are powerful. And unfortunately, they can lead us to act in ways that are harmful to ourselves and to others. And when we do this, we create a ripple effect. When we act rationally, those around us are more likely to do the same. So it is possible to create a better world. A world where rationality is the norm rather than the exception. It will take effort and practice, but it is possible. In this book, he explains why crime, war, and stupidity seem to be the rule rather than the exception in our world. Anger can lead to violence and aggression. Fear can lead to prejudice and discrimination. Self-interest can lead to selfishness and greed. It can motivate us to pursue our own goals, but it can also lead us to exploit others. We have emotions and biases and we act in our own self-interest. And these things are not bad. They make us who we are. But they do cause problems. They cause crime and war and stupidity. When we are motivated by self-interest, we are less likely to consider the needs of others. We are more likely to act in a way that benefits us at the expense of others. These emotions can be powerful motivators, but they can also be destructive. When we are angry or afraid, we are less likely to be rational. We are more likely to act impulsively. And when we act impulsively, we are more likely to cause harm. I highly recommend it. If you want to know more about how emotions affect our decision-making, check out this video. Thanks for watching. He says that humans have the ability to act rationally, but rationality is often overshadowed by three main factors: ignorance, emotion, and self-interest. Ignorance in the sense of incomplete or inaccurate knowledge, emotion like anger, fear, and greed, and self-interest in the sense of putting our own needs above everything else. And it's not what you think. According to Cipolla, if people were rational, we would live in a utopia. It makes us accept violence, injustice, and war. In short, it makes us human. So according to Cipolla, why doesn't everyone just act rationally? Well, because our rationality is limited. There are too many variables at play in our complex world for us to keep track of. And so we simplify things. We develop mental shortcuts to navigate the world. We rely on our past experiences to inform our decisions about the future. And we trust our instincts. These are all examples of non-rational behavior. Humans evolved in small groups, where survival depended on cooperation and altruism. But our modern society is complex and we do really need to cooperate with each other to survive. Instead, we compete. We compete for limited resources, for success, for happiness, sometimes even for our very survival. And in this competition, we are willing to do anything. Anything to win. This willingness to do anything is what Cipolla calls the spirit of the game. The spirit of the game drives us to act irrationally, to cheat, to steal, to kill. We like to think that we are rational beings, but we are not. Take, for example, the emotions of anger and fear. Another reason why we don't always act rationally is self-interest. So according to Cipolla, why does all this happen? Because we are not robots. We are not perfect logical machines. We are human. But there is hope according to Cipolla. We can learn to control our emotions and biases. We can learn to act more rationally. If you like this video, you will love the book. It is full of insights and it is a really easy and fun read. There are many kinds of toxic people out there, but among the worst are those who knowingly hurt others and still believe they're in the right. These are the people who find pleasure in making others cry, ruining relationships and causing pain. And the worst part is that they don't even think what they're doing is wrong. So why do such people exist? And what can you do when you encounter them? Let's find out. No. 1. It's easier to be cruel than kind. But sometimes we can't avoid these kinds of people. They might not even think what they're doing is wrong. Some do it because it's easier than being kind. Others do it because they have low self-esteem and want to feel superior. Whatever the reason, It's never okay to treat others badly. Remember that everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of who they are. So next time you meet someone like this, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and others. Do you have any experience with people like this? How did you deal with them? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like and share it with those who might benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe to get notified whenever a new video is posted. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video. For example, a toxic coworker or classmate. And while you shouldn't allow their behavior to affect you, it's not always easy to do. Furthermore, if you work or study with these kinds of people, avoiding them could be difficult since you might need to collaborate on a project or assignment. So how should you deal with such people? One piece of advice is to not take their behavior personally, even though it's easier said than done. Try to remember that their attitude has more to do with their own problems and less to do with you. Another thing you can do is to set boundaries. Don't let them walk all over you, and make sure you stand up for yourself. Otherwise, they'll keep treating you like a doormat. There is an idea circulating around the internet lately that seems to have originated from the Russian novelist Dostoevsky. While this saying might seem a bit too simplistic, there is some truth to it. Another reason why there are people like this in the world is that their behavior is often learned from their environment. If they grew up in a household where they were constantly ridiculed and humiliated, they'll most likely repeat that cycle by mistreating the people around them. Some people might even justify their actions by saying, "I was taught to be this way," which isn't a good excuse, but it is one of the reasons why some people are so terrible. People with low self-esteem often try to boost themselves up by tearing others down. This means that, instead of focusing on their own achievements and positive qualities, they look for someone whose self-esteem is lower than theirs and try to make them feel even worse. By doing so, they can feel better about themselves because compared to the person they just insulted, they're not that bad. He once said, "It is easier to forgive an enemy than to endure a friend who is purposely trying to annoy you." In fact, it's not just annoying. We're talking about someone who takes pleasure in being malicious and spreading misery around. And you may be wondering, why would anyone want to do that? Well, the answer might be simpler than you think. It might just be easier. Being kind requires empathy, compassion, and emotional availability. On the other hand, being cruel only needs a lack of empathy and a willingness to use whatever power you have to make someone else's life miserable. 2. They have low self-esteem. You may have heard the phrase hurt people hurt people. 3. Their behavior is learned. 4. They're unable to develop healthy relationships. As a general rule, if someone treats you badly, it's best to stay away from them. In conclusion, there are many reasons why some people treat others badly and never apologize. Stupidity is painful. It's painful for the stupid people because they don't know what they're missing. And it is painful for the smart people who have to realize that there is so much more intelligence in the world than they are. So today, I want to give you some consolation. One of them was that complex systems, such as our economy or the weather or even our body, adapt and become stronger as a result of shocks and stresses. He feared that if his students understood the ideas in his book, they would use it for personal gain and power. The secret is that stupidity causes harm to others because it prevents us from assessing risks properly. First, realize that stupid people cause harm unintentionally. A stupid person who drives recklessly doesn't do it because they hate other people on the road. They simply lack the ability to assess the risk of their behavior. Most of us have experienced the loss of someone who was reckless and irresponsible, someone who lived fast and died young. It's not wrong to want to avoid harm and take precautions. It's actually a virtue. The problem arises when we let our fear of harm paralyze us and stop us from taking any risks at all. The secret to minimizing the damage done by stupid people is to be smarter than them, not only to avoid their pitfalls, but also to benefit from their stupidity. Someone who didn't take the time to learn how to assess risks and ended up paying the ultimate price It's a sad but true story. But here's the thing. We can use this knowledge to our advantage. If we understand that stupid people die young, we can avoid being like them. We can learn from their mistakes and take the time to develop our risk assessment skills, instead of just letting life happen to us. A stupid politician who passes a law that hurts their constituents isn't doing it maliciously. They lack the intelligence to see the negative consequences of their actions. If you enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends. And if you want to learn more about the works of great thinkers, subscribe to our channel. A stupid person is like a tourist walking through a minefield. They don't know where the mines are and they keep stepping on them. They don't mean to blow themselves up, but they lack the proper map. By understanding this, we can avoid being harmed by stupid people. Just like a smart driver, a smart citizen, or a smart investor. Stupid people don't mean to cause harm. Usually they don't even realize that they're causing any harm at all. That is why it is important to understand the psychology of stupidity and use this knowledge to protect ourselves. But whose fault would that be? Is it really so bad to want to protect yourself from harm? No, of course not. In fact, that's a virtue. It's called prudence. If you walk into a casino and see someone losing money at the slot machine, would you consider helping them? Probably not. You probably wouldn't even think about helping them. But if you see someone winning at the same machine, you might think about joining them. Why? Because you recognize that sometimes stupid people can bring good fortune. These are the tourists who step on the green squares in the minefield and open the treasure chests. Stupid luck is real. It happens when stupid people do something that benefits us without intending to. Like when a stupid investor buys high and sells low, and we buy low and sell high. When a stupid company pollutes the environment and destroys the natural resources and we come along and clean up their mess and turn it into profit, as Aristotle wrote. It is the mark of a man as prudence that he should know how to avoid useless risks. Unfortunately, most people lack this virtue. They do not know how to assess risks. So they take unnecessary and often fatal risks without fully understanding them. This happens in love, money, politics, health, and every other aspect of life. Taleb calls this the barbell strategy. At one end, we have fragile things that are very sensitive to small changes, like a wine glass that can be broken by a small nudge. On the other end, we have robust things that thrive on chaos, like a cockroach that gets fatter during famines. The key to surviving and prospering in a complex world is to move away from the middle, where fragility and brittleness reign, and move towards both ends. This is where we get the barbell. I want to show you that maybe, just maybe, the stupidity of others can be an advantage for you. The question is, can we minimize the damage done by stupid people? Absolutely. In fact, Cipolla thinks that not only can we minimize the damage, but it's absolutely necessary. In his 1993 book, Thinking in Systems, J. Forrester, a professor at Mint, wrote, "For those who have watched my lectures, I have a confession to make. The ideas in this book have been bouncing around in my head for years, but I refrained from discussing them in class because I was afraid of what students might do with them." What exactly did he fear? We'll find out right after. In our previous episode, we discussed some of the main ideas from Nassim Nicholas Taleb's book, Anti-Fragile. Forrester had a similar insight. So here's the secret that J. Forrester kept from his students. Here are 3 ways to minimize the damage caused by stupid people. Second, recognize that sometimes stupid people can help us. Third, remember that stupid people die young. J. Forrester was right to be concerned about what his students might do with the ideas in his book, but he also missed the point of prudence. So go forth, dear viewer, and may you always find a silver lining behind every cloud. Thank you for watching.